Hello, in this video I am going to show how I add the beads to the little alien. There are two different methods and I have used both simply because the last row is right next to the place where I sew it closed, and so that one I used what I call the old classic method, which is to pick up a bead and basically add it in. This one is done with a crochet hook, and I first put a bunch of beads onto the cotton yarn and then I basically crochet them through. So these three were done that way. Then I sew it up. Then I close it, I sew it up. I add 2 rings just to make it equally firm, a little bit stronger. And then these are, I can't remember the name, they basically open up. I have a tool to open them up so that I can then slip in another one, and I just go on, and then at the end I added a key ring. The eyes were added earlier. They have been glued in, even though they are supposedly safety eyes. I did glue them in. He wasn't going to have a little mouth, but someone who saw him said, oh, he needs a mouth, so I just popped a little mouth in. He doesn't have little arms, and he has a beaded necklace. I first close the neck, as would one in any of these comfort dolls, and I add the beads. This is not destined for a child. This is for someone who likes to use these as key rings, and she's asked for some extra ones for her friends. Made them all a little bit different. As I said, they're supposed to be aliens. This one has owl eyes. These ones have cat's eyes, which are more alien-like. And they're slightly different sizes. Now this one, the cast off, is done in the classic one above the other fashion. And these two, the cast off is random. So I will add beading differently to these two. And this one I will do the same as the blue guy. The tools, I have a selection of cotton, embroidery thread, it is for the mouth. I have pliers. This one crimping, I think it's called a crimping plier, to open the ring. It's fiddly, I'm not really keen on it, but I did anyway. Pair of scissors. What else do I have? Let me just zoom up. Oops. I also have these for the top, so she can add her keys. This is to spin the beads onto the needle. I have 2 size crochet hooks, selection of darning needles and chenille needles, and in there I have 1 sewing needle which I'll be using, and then I have a selection of beads in different sizes. Those are the big ones for the neck. These ones are smaller. Keep them in little bottles. And I have a tray because the needles, the beads fly everywhere, and I just let them fall where they fall into the tray, and then I sort it out afterwards. So there we go. So let's get started on this guy. I have not uploaded a pattern. This is called a comfort doll, or I've just made him an alien by increasing there, but normally they look like that, comfort dolls. And normally you sew eyes on because they're often destined for small children. This one has an increase at the bottom. That is I like that because it pulls the little feet in. I mark the center, it just makes it easier. And then once I have, that's when I'm making it. Then later on the eyes are added, I just make sure that it's still in the center of the eyes. And that's for dividing the legs. So I'll divide the legs along that center line and wherever it falls on the back. Here's just next to the back seam. The back is not as important as the front because you want it to look at least visually more or less in the middle of the little guy. I also have made a marking where the neck is, and that is just simply in the pattern. So when I put the yarn in for the neck, I know where I'm going. Sometimes I use this yarn for the neck and sometimes I use a separate yarn. It all depends how much I have. And these I made quite a while ago, so I would have to go and try and find this yarn if I wanted to use it again. This one over here, I simply used a different color, and I've already put his neck in. Yeah. Okay, so let's focus now on the beads because that's what this video is about. The first version I'm going to do is the crochet version, and for that I need, I'm going to take, this is a sewing needle, so it has a small head. I also have a ruler, and yesterday I had worked out more or less that I needed 4 lengths of the ruler to make a complete strip of crochet. So it was a hit and miss trial yesterday, the blue one. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I will be folding the thread, so even though it is 120 centimeters, once it's folded it's going to be 60 centimeters. Then I need to separate the yarn. There are, in the threads, cotton threads, there are 6 here. I need 2 for each I'm going to call it a strip of beads. I can't think of a better word. And then once I get those 2 little threads through the eye of the needle, I will be pulling it all the way down and joining the back of the threads. Let me just pause this. So I've sorted out the yarn, and keep calling it yarn, cotton embroidery thread. It's tricky. I'll pause again. Okay, so I threaded that. I am joining the two ends. So now I will be working with 4 strands folded over the finger, tail to the back, same as when I make my granny squares. Go under, fetch the yarn, bring it through. I don't have to make it too short, the tail, just leave something. There we go. Don't want anything to come undone. Okay, just some of these embroidery threads are more mercerized than other ones. This one, I don't know what brand it is, but it's a bit dry, for want of a better word. It's catching on itself. Okay, done that. Slipping my work table to the front. Sorry about the lights shining in there. Bring over this little guy. These little tails are probably going to be a pain, but here's what it is. So now I have my knot, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose one of these. It doesn't really matter which one. I'll just go all the way up. I'll start with the middle one simply because it's a bit easier. So he's over there, as you can see. I'm just following the line all the way up, seeing where it goes. Okay, I don't have to go all the way to the top, to right there. I'll go and fetch, put this through there. So now I've got my crochet hook fetching it. Okay, keeping it on my crochet hook. And then I'm observing where the next one is, coming from underneath. Let me zoom in for that. Going from one stitch to the other stitch. I'm going to fetch it. I'm pulling it through. And literally, I didn't even have to, it literally pulled all the way through. So basically, as you can see, it's pulled through the loop that was on the crochet hook. This loop was on the crochet hook and it pulled all the way through. So that's fine. Now he's anchored. I'm going to go into the next space, which should probably be around about there. Just check from the front. No, not right about there. He's actually next to it. So let me take it off from the back. Okay. Go to the front. Where's the focus doing? Come on, guy, focus. Why aren't you focusing? Okay. Go on to the next space. And what I need is I need beads on here. You can put the beads on first. You can put the beads on afterwards, as you choose. You don't have to fill it up. You just need a couple. I mean, if you don't have a twist, if you don't have one of these turning things, you can just put them on with by hand. Check this is more or less a nice distribution. You don't want too many colors next to each other. Works better with a longer needle, but I don't have one. I used to do a lot of beading and have not really done it for a couple of years. Okay, that's fine. So now I have my beads on here. You're going to keep that needle because we need it later on to sew the back. So I'll take a couple at a time. And what we're going to do is we're going to basically zoom in again. We are basically going to leave one bead on the thread, that particular position, as we pull this through, then pull it through. Don't make this guy here too tight. If anything, rather err on the side of loose. You don't want to distort your knitting. And also later on when we come and we're going to sew up that whole back, we're literally going to wrap around it with our yarn to really anchor it. Now you can try and guess where it is from this side, or you can just go to the front, see the neck space, go in, move the bead, fetch the yarn, pull it in. This is only the second time I've ever done this. It was a bit more fiddly yesterday with the blue one because it was trial and error. But once I'd got it right, it went quite smoothly, but it took a while. So yeah, this looks like it's oh, she's doing it rather effortlessly, but yesterday was a bit tricky. As I said, one thing I did learn is not to make it too tight in the back. So let me give it a bit more space. Because what if it's too tight? If it's too tight, it actually pulls the bead through. And it worked better with larger beads. Like these little tiny ones like that, they tend to want to go through. This bead size is, I believe, a 10. The ones on the neck are a 6, I think it is 6. Actually, you know what? These bead size could actually be 8. It's been so long since I've worked with beads. I used to know the numbers well, different sizes. So you're just going to continue with that. Putting the bead in place, fetching it with the crochet hook, allowing the yarn to come through, glide through, and then pull it through the hook, the loop that's at the back. It probably would be easier if it was not on the antenna. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to continue with the antenna, and then you can maybe see a bit better down here. So I will just continue and then pick you up there. So I changed my angle. I was videoing like that, and it just became obvious that my angle was part of the problem, because I like to hold my thread over my finger. Now also making sure that the loop is big enough at the back. Sometimes I pull in one. I take one bead, and sometimes I take 2 depending on the size. So that's a big bead. Where's that little blue one? See if I can get the focus. Not too sure why. This blue one is quite small, so I'm going to take the blue and the orange one together. So I'll take down the red one. I'm going to make sure I don't change my angle simply because of the camera, because that's where the problem was. Coming through, going back. Okay. Let's go to the front from here. Taking the blue one down. It's helping gravity. I'm just letting gravity do it. The blue one wants to pop through. It is fiddly. It took a long time yesterday to do the blue alien. She does like the beads on there. Normally, my little dolls do not have any kind of beads or glued on eyes or anything. They knitted up, sewn closed, and stuffed. It is easier now that I'm working on the larger section. Trying to keep this. The yarn does not want to slip through the beads. As I said, it's not the same. All these cottons are not the same. Some of them are just very dry. If I was embroidering on fabric, it would make a rasping sound, like as it goes through the fabric. Let me just take 2 down. Take 2 down. I think this will be the last one. So what I did was I had, look at these guys, they're slipping through. Pull it out again. Happens. It's when the hole is too big where I knitted, and that's because the next row, as you can see, is an increase. I'm a decrease. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to skip this large one, and I'm going to go straight into the decrease. And for there, I need to make the back loop big enough, and I get a smaller. It's 1.75, a smaller crochet hook. So that I can literally go into that decrease. So I'm skipping the large one and I'm going into the decrease. And then I will fetch the loop. I'll leave 2 beads. Hopefully the blue one won't come through. Okay, I'm happy with that. I'm going to leave it big on the back here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through. I'll just get one more just to anchor that. And then I'm going to sew up the back, and then you'll see what I do in the back. So I'm going to there, anchor that orange. See how this has really come off there. That's because it's the 1.75 tends to lose the loops. So I'll just go back to the 2.5. Okay, so now you see how I've got it here. What I'm going to do is take all the other beads off. Remember, I still have my needle there. Need to go and fetch my needle to the back. So I'll go into the next one. Make sure it's in the right place. Yeah. Go into the next one. Is it the next one? Yeah, make sure it's the next one. be also a decrease. So it's fiddly, fiddly, fiddly. It's good enough as long as there's something that's holding it on. I'm separating the two. Okay. Now I use my hands. Here comes the needle. Bringing it down. I'm going to be making a knot here. So just make sure you're going in the right direction, through the right loops, otherwise you can undo your work. Putting that through there and making a knot. It's not a very secure knot, but it's a knot nonetheless. Just checking my work. It's higgledy-piggledy. That's where I made 2 beads. That's where I made 2 beads. You can see how higgledy-piggledy it is. As well. So I'm now going to sew up by going through all these loops, catching the yarn and catching the embroidery thread where I can, going all the way up. And that is why I needed 60 centimeters or 120 centimeters folded double. Gave me 60 centimeters. It gave me enough to really work with, to be comfortable. Look, it's really, there's only a little bit left. So yeah, the beginning will be trial and error, depending on what you're making. Okay. So I'm just going to continue with it all the way up, and then I'm going to secure it in place. And I think you get the general idea. And then I'll repeat that for these two. And then I will sew my little doll closed. And then I'll do this one by hand. I did in video this part here in blue, so I'll just attach that video so that the 2 beads, you can see the 2 different beads. Okay, the necklace is self-explanatory. I just threaded a whole lot of beads onto a thread and measured it when it was long enough, and then I just went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and attached it. So he is attached all the way around in different places just by going back and forth and back and forth. Remember, this is not for a child. He'll have the lifespan that he has. When he breaks, he breaks. It all depends whether she puts him in a handbag or whether she just leaves him at home on one of her house keys. He'll have a different life experience, the little guy. So there we go. Well, thank you very much for watching. And as I said, I will just clip on here onto this video, but I'm going to mute the sound because there was background noise and I wasn't talking, so there was TV. So I'll mute the sound for that video where I'm hand sewing this on. It's a different technique. As you can see, it's quite wobbly. And one of these I did the whole row with 2 beads per loop, and the other ones I did 1 beads per loop. I think this was the first one. I did 1 bead per loop and I went into every stitch. And another one I did 2 beads per loop, as you can see, and I skipped over 2 stitches. I wanted to speed it up and see how it worked, but it doesn't seem to make much of a difference in comfort of work. It's basically the same. So it's a little bit more secure if it's one bead. It's a little one, so I did 2 there, but otherwise it was 1 bead per loop. Okay, thank you very much. Bye then.